of the first things you notice when you open up the Doctrine and Covenants is that these revelations are not in chronological order. They never were, even from the beginning, from the first printing of the Doctrine and Covenants and the Book of Commandments. Take a look at the section heading. You'll notice that it's November 1st, 1831. The saints are meeting here in the John Johnson home in Hiram, Ohio. The church has been organized for a year and a half. Joseph has been receiving revelations for many years from the Lord and from heavenly messengers. And what's happening here is the church has gathered for a conference, and the subject of the conference is they want to take all of Joseph's revelations that he's received thus far, compile them into one book, and print them into a book that's going to be called the Book of Commandments. Roughly, if you do want to put it contextually, section 1 is received right around when section 66 and 67 is received. So Joseph has received more than 60 revelations at this time, and that's how many they're going to get ready to put together into this thing called, originally titled, the Book of Commandments for the Church of Christ, as you can see here on this image. Well, like any book, you crack open a lot of books, and one of the first things you come across is a preface. A preface is an introduction to a book by its author, and they wanted to give, this Conference of Elders wanted to give a preface to the Doctrine and Covenants as we know it today, or at that time titled the Book of Commandments, so that the reader could know where this book came from. So as you see here, they form a committee like we always do in the church, and they appoint William McLellin, Sidney Rigdon, and Oliver Cowdery, 3 prominent leaders within the church at this time, and they draft the preface for the Book of Commandments. And I love what William McLellin says here. Here's a picture of William McLellin. William McLellin says, quote, "The conference, when they presented the preface to the Conference of Elders, they, quote, they picked it all to pieces and, quote, requested Joseph to inquire of the Lord about it. After bowing in prayer with the conference, Joseph, according to McLellin, quote, dictated by the Spirit the preface, doing so as he sat, quote, by a window of the room in which the conference was sitting. McLellin remembered that, quote, Joseph would deliver a few sentences, and Sidney, that's Sidney Rigdon, would write them down, then read them aloud, and if correct, then Joseph would proceed and deliver more. According to McLellin, quote, by this process, the preface, now section 1 of the Doctrine and Covenants, was given. That seems fitting, by the way, because a preface, as I mentioned, is an introduction to a work by its author. The author of this book was not William McLellin, Oliver Cowdery, nor Sidney Rigdon. It wasn't Joseph Smith either. The author of this work is the Lord, and he is the one who gives us this preface to his Book of Commandments, his revelations, given through the prophet Joseph Smith. So if I could draw your attention, I'd ask you here, highlight and mark where I love how it says this is the Lord's preface to the Doctrines, Covenants, and Commandments given in this dispensation. As you study section 1, pay attention to what it is that the Lord wants to introduce to you about this work of the Doctrine and Covenants. What themes, what ideas, what things pop out consistently in here as the Lord says, this is why I gave these revelations, this is why we have the Doctrine and Covenants, and this is what the Lord wants everybody to know as they get ready to go into these great revelations called the Doctrine and Covenants.